Okay, so Mark Colvin said Australia's soon-to-be former Sex Discrimination Commissioner says the country should put a temporary target on female MPs to boost the number of women in Parliament. Elizabeth Broderick will finish an 8-year tenure in the position next month. So she's been there for 8 years and she wants to boost the number of women in Parliament. That's a priority of hers, isn't it? In 8 years, she hasn't ever defended the genital integrity of one male child. So she kept mum, didn't she? And she was blind and she was deaf, wasn't she? When little boys were screaming in agony from their genital mutilations for the past 8 years. All those boys were Brodericked, weren't they? All those infant children, all those male children were Brodericked. They were Brodericked. They were left to scream in agony and blood. Indeed, some minor male children were sitting in pools of blood, and Broderick kept deaf, dumb and blind about it, didn't she? She did. She's going to finish her 8-year tenure in the position, so all those boys were Brodericked for all those years. Now, Elizabeth Broderick, she said, one man was known to say to me that being Brodericked is a bit like a prostate examination. Uncomfortable but necessary, he told me. So she's making a joke there about a man's prostate. The prostate gland is one of the most sensitive organs in the male body as far as sexual experience and sexual sensation is concerned. She's making a joke, she's making light of it there. And she at the same time, she did never, ever defend one boy's genital integrity, you know. All the prepuces of many boys were cut off in those 8 years, and she didn't defend one. So she can joke about a prostate gland, can't she? It's a big joke, and she's called that Brodericked. So being Brodericked is like a bit like a prostate examination, like a digital a fingering up the anus, up the rectum, or an instrument up the rectum. Uncomfortable but necessary. So have a laugh, Broderick, have a laugh. But all those years you left boys to have their genitals mutilated. And you talk about changing community attitudes, about gender equality. A prostate examination is a penetration of the male body, isn't it? It is. It penetrates the male body. When you get circumcised, that's a penetration of the male body too. The glans penis is invaginated in the foreskin. It's meant to be kept inside the foreskin. And to cut off a foreskin is an invasion. You are actually invading the male body, and you are leaving the glans penis to be exposed for life. That is appalling. It's barbaric. You're cutting off the most sensitive nervous tissue on a male. You certainly wouldn't tolerate it on yourself or a girl. Mark Colvin said he thinks that you should be, what did he say? He said, I think Liz Broderick may have a future in stand-up comedy. Yes, you might best apply your talents to stand-up comedy, yes. Or cooking or sewing or something. You certainly, as a sex discrimination commissioner, didn't defend the human rights of boys. You didn't. You didn't, you wouldn't, you couldn't apparently. You left those boys in the Northern Territory sitting in pools of blood undefended, didn't you? You said nothing. You kept mum. You were blind about it. And you call that being Brodericked, eh? Brodericked. All those boys for 8 years were Brodericked by you. You were the sex discrimination commissioner, and you didn't defend one male child's right to genital integrity as a human right, knowing full well that female children were defended. Yes, I think you've got a future in stand-up comedy. That's not gender equality to defend girls. You went along to the big FGM summit, didn't you? The big summit on female genital mutilation. You went along to that. And so that was equality, was it? You left boys to be cut. You never uttered a word. All those boys were Brodericked by you, weren't they? They were left to bleed and scream in agony. They were Brodericked. That's what Broderick means to me. You've invented a new verb, to be Brodericked. Well, I'll tell you what Brodericked means. It means to be left screaming in agony with your foreskin cut off when you're a defenseless baby. That's what Broderick means. And it's a synonym for sexism and misandry. To treat a boy like that is misandrist. Misandry is sexism. Imagine having somebody like that as Sex Discrimination Commissioner, but you weren't the only one, were you? I could just as well say all those boys were Gowarded during the Goward eras, or they were Bryced during the Bryce eras, the Clinton Bryce eras. Yes, or any other number of female sex discrimination commissioners. I imagine it will be another female sex discrimination commissioner, and it will be somebody who turns a blind eye to the suffering of boys, who won't speak out when boys' genital integrity needs defending. The whole thing's just ludicrous that somebody like that could have been sex discrimination commissioner. And what's more important for her, the priority is having more quota MPs. In the meantime, boys bleed and they scream in agony. And you went on listening tours, didn't you? You went on a listening tour. You didn't listen to the screams of boys, did you? You didn't. And you had, what was it? Your male champions of change. You didn't ever acknowledge that some of those male champions of change with whom you were dealing were genitally mutilated. That never even entered your head. You didn't even discuss male genital mutilation with your male champions of change, did you? You didn't, because you're a hypocrite. Yes, all those boys left to bleed. Yes, all those boys left to bleed and scream in agony by Broderick. They were Brodericked. They were Brodericked. Let's just clarify. New vocabulary. The new word. To be Brodericked. To be Brodericked is to act as a sex discrimination commissioner and to treat one gender in a discriminatory manner, in a differential and unfavourable manner. For example, to act as sex discrimination commissioner and to defend the genital integrity of girls, and on the other hand, to turn a blind eye to the genital integrity of boys. To Broderick somebody, to Broderick a little boy is to remain dumb, remain blind, and remain deaf when he's being genitally mutilated, to not defend him on grounds of his gender. That's what Broderick means. That's what Broderick means. I hope that's clear. The new word to enter the vocabulary, to be Brodericked.